Welcome to Tafe, New South Wales, Western Sydney Region Floristry. My name is David Berger and today we're going to look at Christmas designs for the festive holiday. What I've done is I've got some Christmas baubles which are hollow inside, and what I've done is cut the crown of the bauble so that it has the greatest surface area available to place the materials in. And the baubles allow us to make a very convenient vessel that can be filled later with water to place the flowers in. I've placed these baubles in a vase, but what I've actually done is glued the baubles together. So what I'm going to do is just add the last bauble into the arrangement. I'm just going to pop a little bit of hot glue in a couple of places on the bauble. You don't need to use a lot of glue. The baubles are plastic in nature, so the glue works very well on the adhering the plastic to the plastic. And what you do need to consider though is the angle of the bauble and how the flowers will come out of it to be used. So you just need to make sure that the angle of the bauble is correct. And you can just go in, place a little dab of glue once you've got it into the position, hold it for a couple of seconds, and it will adhere to the other baubles in the collection. So you just need to put a little bit of pressure. You can see that I've got my glue gun nice and safely in a container, and that will mean that the glue gun can be used safely and it's not on the surface of the table where it can actually damage the surface of the table. And then I can just make sure that my bauble is in the correct position. And what I can do with one of the test tube holders is then actually fill that bauble with water, because remember it's a little vessel in itself which can hold water. So then we can use this to dress the flowers. So I'm going to use all sorts of Christmas red. You can see I've built the baubles up a little bit into different heights within the vessel. I do have some water in the glass vase, so that what that helps do is magnify the baubles and intensify their colour and give them a nice clean look at the base of the vase. What I'm going to do is use some of the steel grass or spear grass, and this particular one is a really nice flat grass. So what I'm actually going to do is just bend this in little angles, and I'm going to place this down in amongst the little angles of the baubles so I can create a little bit of interest into the vase. What you might have to do is that the ends of the spear grass are a little bit thicker and not quite as flexible as the ends of the spear grass as it grows on the plant. So you can cut off some of the base of the grass, and that always allows for the top parts to be a little bit more flexible. What it's going to start to do is give us some line to the arrangement and give us some interest. It's a bit of a folly to the very round forms of the baubles. So this is a rectangular vase, so what we're repeating is that rectangular sharp sort of angle within the spear grass feature, and I'm just bending it over on each end, discarding the part of the end that I don't need, just to create some different lines and some different shapes. And that will hold into place quite well. This is going down into the water source within the vase, which is another reason that I've dressed water in the base of the vase. I'm just slipping those little pieces of spear grass down in between there, like I said, where it's a little bit inflexible at the base. I'm taking that off to allow for me to gently bend in each part and to create these lines, which are creating a little bit of a different, starting to build up the levels in the vase and add interest. We always should consider when we're doing something for a table, which this is for, that we create some interest right down to the very base of the sides of the arrangement, because people are going to be viewing this while they're eating at the table, or even perhaps if it's on a buffet table or something like that. So we want to create these different levels of the lines within the arrangement to give it some different dimension, not only in the horizontal part of the arrangement, but also in the vertical part, so that we have interest from the very base of the table right up to the top of the design. So I've just placed some of the speargrass here, just crossing over to start to give me a little base. And then what I'm going to do, I've filled all these little baubles with water, just so they're like little vases that then I can, little receptacles that I can then place the flowers in. And the good thing about having them in a vase at the bottom is if any of the water, when you're topping it up over the life of the flower, if you overfill the vases a little bit, the baubles, they will fall, the excess water will fall down into the vase. But what I'm going to use is, as I said, these little receptacles, little baubles, as a holder for our flowers. So I'm using some Green Tricks carnation here, and I can put that down into the little baubles. So this is another really good design in the florist shop. If you've got some broken stems or broken heads of flowers, which we often have when we're unpacking the stock for the day in the shop, you might find that some of the flowers have broken in transit. So this is a really good way to use up all these little heads and quite short flowers and arrange them into a container. I've got the beautiful spider orchids, which have such a lovely flow to them. These particular ones have lots of side branches, and what I'm going to do is take some of these side branches off, which I can use individually into the arrangement. And what it's going to do is increase the line of the flower. And as I said, what I've done is place some of the baubles straight up, and other baubles I've actually placed on a little bit of an angle, so I know that when I put the flower material into the little sphere, it's actually going to be the right angle to go into the arrangement and to sit nicely into the vase, into the baubles. So then I can put them into nice little angles, the off-cut branches. I can put those into the baubles as well and put those up into the top of the baubles to give some nice line and different dimension. You can see that I'm using a Lazy Susan here, or a spinning mechanism. And that's always great when you're designing table flowers or something that you want to make nice and long and low, because then you will get a nice different look to the materials that you're using, and you will ensure that you have a nice even spread of the materials, and you can turn the arrangement as you make it. So I'm just feeding some of the orchids down lower into the length of the vase, just to give a little bit of a different line, and also to bring those flowers right from the top of the arrangement, like we did with the steel grass, right from the top of the arrangement to the base of the arrangement as well. So I'm starting to elongate the lines of the arrangement. Then we've got some really beautiful other feature flowers that I want to use, the beautiful Gloriosa, which are such a specialty, gorgeous flower that are available at Christmas. And they don't need a lot of other dressing around these particular blooms. They're so beautiful. They last very well as a cut flower in water. So that's another reason that I've used these little baubles to hold the water source, because the flowers are right down into a beautiful water, straight into the water, so they're not having to draw the water through any floral foam. They're straight drawing it directly from the water. So that's going to mean that the Gloriosa will last as long as they possibly can. And I'm just placing these into the little baubles, which, as I said, are giving us our little receptacle to place our water source. And these are so special, the Gloriosa. They really bring any Christmas or festive arrangement to life with their beautiful jewel tones in the crimson and the yellows, which bring a really beautiful colouring. So what I've done, I've dropped a couple a little lower in the arrangement and some a little higher up in the arrangement as well, to start to give us that beautiful feature. And then I just want to finish with a couple of beautiful little feature flowers. So I've got a lovely rose here. I've just reflexed it slightly. So reflexing is a technique that's very popular at the moment, and it's a beautiful way, especially when we're dealing with flowers for an event or quite a short period of time, like a table like this one, where we want the flowers to be really beautiful and full for the period of the event. It's a great idea to reflex the roses and bring them to their full potential. You do need to make sure that you leave enough room for your reflex roses to go into the design. That is a little bit of a extra consideration when we're placing these reflex roses into our floral work. We don't want to have them too tight up against the other blooms, because we have reflexed the petals back, so they're a little bit more fragile than when they're in their budded form. So we want to make sure that we have enough room for the roses to sit really nicely in amongst all the other elements of the design and not feel that they're too clustered. And also a little bit of a grouping of these is quite nice as well. I've left some of the roses in a position where they're really viewed just by themselves, but I'm going to group a couple of the roses in an area of the design. And when we do that as well, we don't always have to group towards the center. In an elongated design like this, it's quite nice to bring some of the groups out to the edges of the design, because that will give a little bit more of an emphasis to the edge of the design and bring the eye right out. Just a final little flourish accent is a tiny little bit of the incense bush, which again is a very festive flower. Here in Australia, we always associate this with the festive period, because that's when it's out in its full plumage on the tree. And it's a very beautiful flower that will give a little bit of softness to the top of the design. What you can see is I've taken the foliage off it to ensure that it has its longest life here in the vase. And it's really just giving a little bit of a textural element to the last placement. So I'm not going to put too much of this into the design, because we have quite a geometric design here with the baubles and the other flowers, and I don't want to bring too much of a soft element into that. So just in a couple of little places each side of the design. Then what I would do to finish this design off is just make sure that the water is nice and full in the container. As I said, what that's going to do is magnify both the baubles and also just finish the nice neat appearance of the side of the arrangement. It's going to really emphasize and enhance the colors, the reds, the different textures of the shapes and the glitter underneath the water. You can see now we have different layers with the speargrass, the baubles, the features of the roses, up to the very soft plumage of the incense bush. So this is a long, low table centre, very suitable for a Christmas table.